Hello, everyone. Welcome in. Hey, y'all. Hey, I'm Ann with Andale Homestead.
And I'm Sandy with Suburban Homesteader, Wyoming, Arizona.
I'm Monica with Bland's Promised Land Ranch.
And I'm Casey. I've officially lost my mind this morning over at Ormsby Farm. So we thought we were live a couple minutes ago, and we were not. We were just talking to ourselves behind stage. Forgot to press go live. But good morning. Good morning. Welcome in. On today's episode, we had a really, really informative last podcast episode with the Naked Gardeners about meat birds. We're talking chickens, turkey, quail, duck, even rabbit. I didn't even know that rabbit was considered poultry, but it is. But I think first, what we need to do is tennis ball it over to Ann to say hello to all of our wonderful friends that are in the chat. So let me see if I can start pulling them up. Here we go.
Oh, we are tickled to death. Hoorah, devil dog. Hey, darling, I'm glad you're here. Commander Bacon. Hey, we're so glad you're here. And then we have Karen. Karen, she says, is hot. It's hot. And Cynthia says, hello from the Netherlands. We're so glad to see you. Melanie Wolfgang. So glad you're here, honey. And Dorothy. Hey, y'all. Hey, my buddy and Francisco. You tell your office mates. We all said how do. Here's Way Homestead. Hey, sweetie. That's a dear friend of Sandy's. Almost her little brother. B&S Odyssey. Hi. Lazy days ahead. I'm so glad you're here. And yeah, hey, here he says, I'm Jesse from Lazy Days Ahead. So we have to pull him up on the panel one day. Then we have Roberta's Artistic Adventures. Great to see you, Roberta. Maria Graham, my friend. I'm glad you're here. Treasure Hunter Neil. Oh my goodness. Then we have Dee's Garden Adventures. I'm so glad you're here too. Y'all, people ask me and they say, why is it that you seem to be so happy when you see people in the chat? And it's because I'm genuinely surprised and happy, really thrilled that you have come to spend some time of all the places in all the world. And you decided to come and spend a little time with us. That is so important to us. So today we're going to be talking about meat and how to grow your own, how to have your own. Worth and I have not done that yet, other than fish and deer and, some hunting and fishing, but not to grow on our farm. So, Monica, you have done that a lot in your poultry and in your rabbits. So maybe you might be able to share a little something that Naked Gardeners, the wonderful guest that we had on our podcast earlier.
Okay, so honestly, I'm like thinking, what did we talk about? I mean, we had really had a lot of great conversation, honestly. Tori and Sydney they're just amazing. They're so knowledgeable, and it's really awesome to be able to talk to them and kind of glean more information. So they have raised a myriad of poultry. They raise a lot of their own meat animals, and so because they do all that, we really were able to kind of dig in and talk about the kind of ins and outs of raising poultry and whether you can do that in a smaller space or a bigger space, because you don't have to have a really big place to be able to raise meat birds. You need to have some space, but you can raise your own meat kind of no matter where you're at. Just know the rules and know some of those things. But we raise our own turkeys here. We raise our own rabbits here for meat, and we have raised Cornish cross in the past for meat birds. Now I know that some people are not sure about what that means. So Cornish cross is a specific type of meat bird. They are bred genetically to get bigger faster. So, Miss Ann's chickens are full grown, but they're not as full grown as a Cornish cross looks in like 10 weeks. So a Cornish cross, they get big and they're bred to have a very full breast meat area, and you can see it. And if you're not careful, they could eat, and they could actually die before you're ready to take them. So that's really, being mindful of those things. And so, raising meat birds is a fun thing if you allow it to be and you make it enjoyable. And it's really beneficial to your family because you know what you're putting in your poultry. Now, Casey is raising some Cornish cross soon, I believe. And you are going to try to look at the difference and raise both Cornish cross and American breasts, right? Because there's also these dual purpose birds too, where you can have the dual purpose. The American breast is a dual purpose, but we also have some other ones like red rangers, and there's lots of dual purpose birds, which means they lay eggs, but you can also harvest them for meat. So Casey, you're doing Cornish cross soon, correct?
I am. I actually have them coming probably in about 6 days. So this is the first time. So I'm like, oh my goodness, what did I get myself into? But I'm excited. But I am doing the American breast as well, only because we talk about self-sustainability on the homestead, and Cornish cross is not self-sustainable because you still have to rely on a hatchery to get those Cornish cross. So learning about dual purpose chickens, such as the American breast, so on and so forth, the other breeds of the chickens, then you can have your own eggs. And if you have a rooster, that means you'll have your own chicks that you then can grow and put out for meat. Funny story though, is I actually bought a Cornish cross from one of my homestead buddies at the farmer's market. I've never done the Cornish cross or eaten the Cornish cross meat. This chicken was like a small turkey. This sucker was big. It was a big chicken, y'all. And it was some really, really good meat. So I'm really excited to try it out for myself. And because it's only what, Monica, 8 weeks, 8 weeks of.
I think it really just depends on whether you free range them a little bit, because we free ranged ours and we let ours go to 12 weeks. Because here's the thing, when you raise your own meat, you have the opportunity to plan out when it's convenient for you, right? I mean, it's just like your garden. You don't plant things. Well, hopefully you don't plant things in a season when you're going on vacation, which would be harvest time, right? I mean, people go on vacation is harvest time. We do that. But for the most part, you try to plan out your garden so that you have that timing to be able to be available. Same thing with birds, and same things with all kinds of raising your own meat. You want to be able to make it so that you can be available. So the first time we ever did a batch, we did a 15 batch of Cornish cross, and we got them in September and we processed them in November. But there was a few weekends where it was kind of like really nasty weather. So while we were getting ready to do them at 10 weeks, we pushed it off till 12 because we knew that was going to be the best time for us. We were able to buy a freezer specifically for the birds. And 12 weeks were great because we were able to free range ours as much as possible. We let them out during the day and then we put them back away at night. And for 15 of them, that was really feasible. Now, if you have a larger group, it might be a little more difficult. But, I think that's the best part about it, is you can really choose when you're ready to harvest it and when you're ready to go from there.
And you made that important point that if you free range them, it'll be a little bit longer than if they just stay in a coop area or a tractor, which is what ours will be doing. Ours will be in a chicken tractor. Monica got to visit the farm.
It's huge.
About a week ago. So I'm sure mine will be ready far before 12 weeks.
Yeah. Well, I think it also depends on too, if you pull their food up. That's something I didn't know. I didn't know that with Cornish cross, because they just eat. With that particular bird, you actually should pull their food up about dinner time, like right about 6 or 7 o'clock at night. Pull their food up for the night. They don't need to eat throughout the night. And then in the morning, put the food back there and let them eat freely throughout the day, filling it up as needed. And you're going to keep them a little bit more heart healthy from the time that they're with you to the time that they're gone. So I will say that, it's interesting to find out how many people have done this. So if you are in the chat somewhere and you have raised meat birds, or you're interested in raising, so first of all, if you've raised meat birds, I would love to see if you've done it and if you had a good experience. So
Sandy, I can't remember. Have you raised meat birds before?
Who?
Sandy?
Yeah. I have. And I always like to go with the dual bird because I do want the eggs too. And let me just stop 1 second. There are just so many fun people that are our friends in the chat today. I'm trying
to pay attention, but look.
Whoa. But I have one of my favorite chickens to raise are the black, I think you pronounce it Australopes.
Mm-hmm. Australorp.
They are a great bird. They're large, but they lay and lay and lay. In fact, I think they are the bird that has the record of laying 364 eggs in 1 year.
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
I
So
need to find
that
out.
is a good bird to, like Ann and I, we don't have 15 chickens. We have a small flocks of chickens.
Yes.
Where I live, I can only have 5. And so I have to be specific on what I want. Now, my dream bird, my dream chicken is, it's called Icelandic because it can survive in my cold, very well. They like the snow. And so that is my next bird to get.
That's awesome. I mean, to go to that type of history, I just sort of go by the whatever's cute in Tractor Supply. So when you go and buy your chickens, it would be good to know which brands do what as far as which breeds are larger, which are more egg layers, which we did do some research. I mean, but it didn't really matter when they were really cute sitting there in the store. But it's time to replenish. And I also was trying to figure out a way because Sandy and I both, we can't have more, or we're not supposed to have more than, I'm not supposed to have more than 4 per lot. I have 4 lots. So I figure I can have 12.
Mhm.
But as far as beginning or where to start to get meat birds, what to do, do they have to be able to be moved all over? I just have a yard. I don't have pasture. And so do I need to be able to move them? Can they stay in the same place? If I get a dozen, and then you got to think about freezer space as well. So,
Yeah.
you know, Monica, how do you, Casey, do you move your birds around or do they stay in a pen?
They stay in a pen, and I guess that is a good thing because Monica moves hers. I don't. Now this
And
is
so
my first year doing both the meat turkeys and the meat chickens. I am doing it one for my family, but also to sell. So my goal is for them to get as big as quick, so I'm not spending as much money on feed, so on, so forth. So that's the reason I don't move mine. Now my chicks, my egg layers, my girls. They have a pen where they walk around and live their best life. So they're not going to get as big. But I do not. I have a stationary, I call it a tractor that I built very bootleggily. That is where the Cornish cross chickens are on the left and my my turkeys. Monica, what did we figure out they were? They were like there was a red bourbon. I had a couple blue slates and
the Spanish and the blue slates are really pretty. So he keeps his stationary. Now I move mine and I let mine free range. I don't actually move them. Like we cross fence our pasture for our cattle, right? We don't have the fencing like the Premier One or whatever other brand you would want to choose. But that's what the naked gardeners do. They section off their property so that they can move their meat birds and their poultry and keep them separate as well. So they know what they're raising in certain areas and for what purpose. And so, yeah, just like that, he raised meat birds in a tractor and some we've done free range. So semi-free range, you can really adjust what you need for your particular poultry and your space. Even if you have a smaller space, you can make do. You just have to maybe move the area a little bit, move that space that the chickens are in a little more often. That's me, by the way, moving the space around. That's you moving the little chicken space. But I mean, that's what chicken tractors are for. That's what the fencing is for. And there's a lot of ways you can do it. Sometimes you just have to think outside of the chicken coop a little more.
Okay.
Right. And in our Monday talk, we talked about a lot of different birds too. Because like I love ducks. Ducks are a great thing to have on your property. What about geese? They're not only great big eggs, they are as good a watchdog as a watchdog. So we have some people out here that raise pheasants. And so there's a lot of opportunities for people to grow what they want to, eat. And I think that's really exciting. We're living in a great time that people are really aware, and it's easy to get chicks or eggs. And so why not try it? Even if you're only trying a few. If you have a very small space, why not quail?
Exactly.
You know,
Right.
quail eggs are great. Have any of you guys grown quail?
I did. I tried, and I was not very successful, so I quickly got rid of them.
No,
we have
I'm almost being peer pressured into it out here in Georgia.
it's
So
great.
that may be the next one that we do.
So there's a lady that we recently sold some rabbits to, and she raises quail. So that was her gateway animal was the quail, and she raises quail for meat, and she loves it. She's like, "Do you realize the turnaround time on quail? It's fantastic."
Yeah.
And she rents her space. She doesn't have a very big yard, and she just cycles through, and she just loves it. Yeah, it's a lot of time with the incubator. I mean, they take they have a short period from egg to process. And I think that is really a benefit to people who want a smaller, quieter animal that can be in a smaller space. But yeah, quail are a great opportunity. I think it's all about what your family's going to eat too.
True.
And I'm a big proponent of trying something and trying it a couple times. Don't just try it once. You get the 3 strikes here. Try it at least 3 times, 3 different recipes, because you may not really love it the first way. But don't just say, "Oh, I had rabbit and it was disgusting." Well, that's because maybe it was a wild rabbit, or maybe you just fixed it wrong. I made rabbit stew the first time we made rabbit.
It wrong.
Well, we made rabbit stew, and I was like, "Oh, I'm making rabbit stew," and I made it, and I was like, "This is terrible. What was I thinking?" And then the following time, I put that same rabbit that we raised, you know, in the same cages and everything. It was like a sibling, and we put that rabbit in a crock pot, and I shredded that meat up, and we had it on nachos and in taco shells, and I'm like, "Yep, that's it. We're done. This is like chicken," and it really did taste like chicken. I've done ground rabbit. I've done all that, but we've tried it different ways. And that's exactly right there. Rabbit burgers, rabbit sausage, rabbit boudin. I mean, there's so many things you can do with your animals.
And one thing that His Way Homestead is speaking to us in the chat and saying, you know, for them, what they have found is that you can do quail, but it does take a lot of time with an incubator. But there are other things like the rabbits that don't need an incubator. And so that's something to consider as well of, you know, what kind of time you're going to have them in your house or around and things like that. I really want to do it. I don't want to do the harvesting part, but
remember, we talked about too, and I think this is something to be said, and we've said it before on, you know, our podcast before. And I'm a very big proponent of, if you raise an animal, you should know how to dispatch it at some point, because those animals get old. And then what do? You know, do you just say, "Well, they're just going to get old. I'm just going to let them slowly die until one day I come outside and they're gone"? Look, excuse me. That would be great. I mean, not great, but that would be great if we never had to do that with our animals. If they just quietly went to sleep one night and then we woke up and we were sad that we were going to miss them, and that we never had to actually do the dirty work of handling their end care.
yeah,
But just like if you raise dogs or cats, I really truly believe that we know in our heart when it's time to take our pets to the vet to be put down or whatever. We do know. And it's hard, and we do it because we're adults and we're functioning people, and we make those decisions. But in the same respect, when you're raising animals on your farm, you should at least know how to, because what happens if there's one that's so injured?
right.
And then you're like, I'm just going to put it out in a box and forget that it's there, and it'll just die eventually. I mean, like, that's not fair, right? So I feel like we should really have that respect for our animals that we raise anywhere on any of our homesteads or any of our homes. Whatever you're raising, you should know how to take care of it at the very final stage.
I do respect that. So much.
And I feel like it's a hard thing. Look, it's not an easy thing, Miss Ann. It is very difficult, but you feel so much better in the end knowing that you have that knowledge and that skill set.
Right.
And that we did it humanely, and they're not standing in a chicken house with 5 million birds and all kinds of steroids and things like that. So.
It's hard.
You know, I did have to learn that when me and Monica talked about it, because for those that follow me on social media, we had a deformed chicken, or a deformed turkey, excuse me, that we hatched out. It was female and got a little too attached to it. We named her Quasalita because she looked like the Hunchback of Notre Dame with her hump and leg. But it got to the point where I was texting Monica a lot and like, okay, this is happening now. Okay, she's broken a leg. All right, now she's broken the other leg. It's just you here, and I don't know if there's anywhere else, you can't really take poultry to a vet, or you definitely can't take them to processors. So you have to learn how to do it yourself, and we did. We had to put her out of her misery humanely. But that was one of the reasons that I was glad that I actually tuned in when Monica said, if you raise that animal, you should know how to dispatch that animal. It's not fun. It's not something to write home about. But it's something that has to be done.
Yeah.
And I saw, that's you, Monica. I was about to say payroll. I said, who else is talking about payroll? Yeah.
Well, because he said we don't have pets. Even our cats have to catch mice. And we have our pets because we just love them and they stay inside and we snuggle with them. But even my boxer dogs, they have a purpose. They're there to protect my children. If my children are outside on the trampoline or they're outside catching the ball with one another or whatever they're doing, my dogs are right there. And no one look, Miss Ann's pet, she, that baby right there has a purpose. They all have a purpose.
He did. He did. Go ahead, say it.
When I look at to bring an animal onto my little homestead that I have, I agree totally with Doug from His Way Homestead. It has to have a purpose. Yeah. It has to. So like when, and I like a dual purpose because when I have rabbits, I get their poo to go into my gardens. I can make manure tea. They can eat my extra lettuce and my weeds and different things. Same with the chickens. They have different purposes. I can use them for meat. I can have the eggs. I can use their droppings in after I age them to put into the garden. So I think it's a good way to look at it. And like Monica said, you have to be able to dispatch them, harvest them. That's a part of protecting them. That you are their mom and dad. Right. You have to do the best thing for them. And now I'd like to know how many of you guys ferment your feed, because I have done that lots of times with having chickens. I think it's real healthy for them. I think I like to add apple cider vinegar to their water sometimes. I just wondered what you guys do.
We ferment our pig food and our chicken food as much as we can. I'm not in charge of the chickens and the pigs and stuff like that, or the poultry and then the pigs. It's usually my boys. We have like specific animals that our kids are in charge of. So as long as if I am out there and reminding them, hey, you need to make sure you make a bucket for tomorrow. And we do, because it's so hot here, we can just put a bucket together and like the next day it's already bubbling. So we ferment our feed. It actually takes our feed further. We're able to feed them less because it takes them further. Plus in this heat, it is amazing. It's like they're drinking while they're eating. And it seems to work for us. I know it's not for everybody, but we definitely do it here as much as I have control over. So.
Okay. So how do you do that? I mean, you just pour water, Sandy, you just pour water on the food.
Yeah,
what do you do?
Yeah. I just have a 5-gallon bucket. I pour water in there. I usually put either an old pillowcase or something over top of it because I don't want any bugs getting in there. Yeah. Not that the chickens would probably mind that. I just don't want it. And mine has to ferment here usually because I usually set it just in the shade and it takes 3 days, 7 days. But if you're just, you have a few processing and it lasts a while because I'm doing a big bucket of it. But man, those chickens love that.
Yeah.
And so how much do you put in a 5-gallon bucket? I mean, is food like halfway up or as far as the food?
I think I usually halfway to 2/3.
Okay.
And then I just put water in it and it expands itself. So you don't want to fill it too full and it's going to expand over top of your bucket.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. We started doing the ferment feed for the pigs just because the pigs were going through so much feed. And I had remembered that Monica had talked about fermenting the feed with literally just the feed and the water. And they truly think it's like the bomb.com, the
Yeah.
bomb.com. They think it's something different. They think it's a different feed. They
Mhm.
think that we have won the lottery and we
you,
started buying really expensive stuff. It's hysterical to see how much faster they eat the fermented food from
Mhm.
non-fermented food. And I think it was John that said that he doesn't do it over the fall. I tried it last year for the chicken feed, and we didn't do it over the fall either. And my chickens were bougie. They didn't like the fermented feed. They were not fans. They were not, and I only had the 6 at the time. So maybe I can try different ones because those 6, they are bougie. I mean, bougie is as bougie has. So
Well, Farmer Sydney's in here and he says the pigs love it. And I believe next week we'll be able to chat with Tori from Naked Gardeners. She'll be in here next Friday to talk to us about American breasts, which is a specific meat bird that they raise, and they raise very well. And I believe that they finish their American breast birds on fermented feed. I believe. I could be wrong. We can ask her about that for sure.
I think it was corn because I wrote it
fermented
down.
corn. And it was like a milk, like a raw milk and a fermented milk and corn. So that is a way to get that, like, really that flavor infused in that meat for the final 2 weeks of the American breast. But we're going to talk to them next week. She's going to be here. Sydney's got to work. He's got a job. But she'll be here next week and she'll be able to chat with us specifically about American breast, because that is literally their jam right now. I mean, they raise all kinds of animals, but American breasts are a really they're like a new fad bird, I think. That's like a new thing everybody's doing, but it's a dual purpose bird. And I think honestly, it's going to be a great conversation. Yeah, I work for a living, he says. That's the text message that he's been sending. Hey, you're at work on a live on YouTube.
I have one more question though. Okay, so I can get a pen, put 6, 10, 12 birds out there, whatever, because I can get away with a couple of them for 10 weeks, maybe. Couple of extra over the numbers. But then where do I even begin to get like the spinner thing that you put them in to get the feathers off? Or,
You don't need that.
I have we have big pans where we can scald them.
You have a turkey. What is it? They call it turkey fryer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Propane. Okay, so we use a turkey fryer. We've never used it for frying turkeys, but we use a turkey fryer, those really big pans, and we heat it up with some water and we get it to a certain temperature. And once it's at that right temperature, we add a little bit of Dawn dish detergent, just a little bit. And that actually helps relieve the feathers, especially if you're doing waterfowl poultry. It's much better. But you just dip it, and then you ice dip it and just make sure you kind of stop it from cooking. You don't want to cook your skin. And then you smack that thing on the table and you just take your thumb right here and you just start pushing the feathers away.
Okay.
And the feathers will come. There's a good test for it too. If you have your chicken in there and you kind of dip it, you can take a tail feather and pull it. And if it easily comes out, then usually that's Eric's test to do it. But
I need to go watch it somewhere with someone.
I will say I'm bougie because I did see that there are companies that rent the pluckers pretty cheap. Now, Anne, you probably won't for the amount of chickens you have, but for ones that are doing 50 or 60 or 70 chickens in a day, a plucker, it's good to know that they do rent them.
Yeah. And you need some tools, Anne. You don't need the spinner, but if you guys have ever watched Polyface and their chicken production, this is a tool he recommends. This is actually called a catfish skinner.
Okay.
You get it for under $5 at Walmart. And so when you start pulling those feathers out, sometimes you get those little parts of the pin feather that wants to stick in there. And all you do is just grab that with this tool and it just pulls right out.
Okay.
So, having just some good tools can make that so much easier.
A basic sharp knife. Some poultry shears, like some poultry scissors. Yeah. Pretty much you can
that
sharp knife, poultry shears, you're good to go. You don't need all the big fancy equipment. We have done just under 50 in one time. We got together with some friends and we had an assembly line. It was like 6 different adults here at least. And we did almost 50 of them without any kind of extra fancy machines. We didn't have a plucker. We just had a bunch of tarps on our tables outside, and we had some buckets, and we rinsed them down and we stuck them in. And another thing is, a lot of people will tell you have to water bath them or ice bath them for 24 hours or whatever. Personally, I take mine, I put them straight away in a bag, and then I just throw it in the freezer. That's what I do. I have never had a chicken that has been foul like that. Like I've never had a bad one, like, chewy or bad. And I've had a lot of people say it's a bad idea, but I mean, I just throw it into the freezer and I'm good to go. I've never had to let it sit.
Okay.
So there's lots of different ways to do it.
Jesse has put up some links for those pliers and things. I mean, my husband's a big fisherman and hunter, and he has the tools to skin the fish and to do all those types of things. So he would be good at it.
Yeah, and if you have a friend that lives by that has done it before, that is so helpful to have somebody that's already done the processing before to help you. Even just for the first time.
Yeah.
Well, even I think we talked about it on the episode is, this will be our first time at Ormsby Farm processing poultry, but having a little group of people that have done it before and doing it as a group.
Yeah.
And what's the word that I'm looking for? Bartering, by saying, hey, come help me, teach me, and take a whole turkey home for Thanksgiving.
Okay.
How we're doing it. And that'd be a good way for you, Anne, if there's people where you live that have done it before, is have a little.
I'm sure they exist.
Well, I think too, if they don't, here's the thing. We didn't have anybody teach us. Okay. When we got here, we were YouTube people. We watched Polyface Farms. We watched them so many times, the how-to video, that I actually went in after Eric had already started the process. I went back in. I had it on pause on my TV and hit play again so I could watch it one more time. I took it on my phone and sat it there, and I did it. I did it watching a video on YouTube.
Okay.
I didn't have anybody holding my hand. I only just had a video. And I'm obviously able to do plenty of them. And every bird, once you do one bird, it gets easier. It gets easier each time. Not like mentally, you're like, oh, there's Martha, my favorite bird. No.
Right.
Once the head's gone, it's a lot easier. Trust me. Once the heads are gone, my kids are like flocking to the birds to help.
You're on a roll today, girl.
Oh,
I'm telling you.
Anyway, but no, I mean, we do it as a group, and my kids are very hands-on because we want to know we want them to have that skill. But I will say that you don't always have hands-on. Nowadays, it's a little bit more easy, but this was 10 years ago. And even 10 years ago, nobody was here to help us. We did it. And just last year, I had a friend of mine. She lives in Tennessee. She had a bird get really sick. And she said, Monica, the bird just literally died. But I want to process it. I mean, it just died. Like, I don't know what was wrong with it. Do you think I can do it? I'm like, I say, even if you don't keep the meat, you process it out to figure out why it died, or just take that skill. It's still warm. So she actually watched my turkey video that we do. We have a turkey video where it talks you how to do all of the processing. She watched my turkey video the entire time and just did what I did with the Polyface Farms. And I was so happy later on. She said, your video was great. I watched it like 8 times and I was able to do it. And I was like, yes. Because it meant so much to me to know that I gave her enough of the process that she could follow that video the way Joel Salatin did for me.
Right.
Back 10 years ago. And I mean, that's the best. So you find a good video, whatever that video is, and you watch it over and over and over and over. And you'll get it.
That's true. That's very true.
And then you just dig in. You just dig in and start doing it.
Okay. And Farmer Sydney says they're going side by side comparing Cornish.
That's going to be
American breast together.
Yeah, I am excited about that. See, and that's the thing. Sydney's going to have a processing American breast. They offer the ability to be able to come out and have that process and see that. And we've done that here where we've done rabbits before. We've done other animals before. And that's a thing that you can find. But if you're in a smaller community and that's not an option for you where you're at, YouTube's available.
That's true.
And I think that's why a lot of us have channels right here, because we want to teach something to someone else. It may not just be the animal processing part of it, but it's a skill set. There's something that we want to share. And if that means that we can share processing animals or whatever it is. That's what we're going to do. And just like Sydney said, build your own community.
That's right, Sydney. That's right. And I just have to, like you tell us all the time, open your mouth, talk to people.
You'd be surprised how many things happen when we start remembering that it's not 2020 and that we can be talking to people, we can be near people, we can interact with people again.
Right.
Yeah. And Two Doves, Bees, and Garden says Skillshare. We need
we need to do another one. That's why we do these, because we really enjoy sharing these skills with others so that they can have it.
I wonder if the 4-H community here, it's kind of active. I wonder if that would be a resource too.
I bet you it would be. A lot of those 4-H kids will take their birds when they're finished, or the 4-H or the what is it? The ag kids. A lot of the ag kids in the area here will take theirs to process. We actually helped one of our friends who had 10 birds that he had won. He had won for these meat birds for his meat pen. And he came back and he brought them over. I'm not kidding you, guys. He brought these meat birds over in the back of a pickup truck. They were not in a cage. They were just I'm not kidding. They were just like, they look like me after Thanksgiving dinner. Like they were just laid out. They couldn't walk. And I was like, I feel bad for these babies. They actually finished out between 8 and 9 pounds each.
Wow.
That's bigger than my average like turkey when we take our turkeys. They're between 7 and 9 pounds. These were like 8 and 9 pounds. I couldn't believe it. I was like, this is not healthy.
Our corn cross we just had was 8 pounds. The one
that's insane.
Oh
I mean, these were fat birds. They couldn't even walk. Their legs were all like,
yeah. Well, that's what I hear, is that with the Cornish cross, they get so big so fast that you're actually doing them a favor.
Yeah.
Because they can't do anything but sit and eat and suffer.
They were breathing.
I'm okay with getting them to stop suffering.
Exactly. Exactly.
And then you'll really like the meat when you taste it. Just saying.
Yeah. I'm sure. I need to get another freezer.
But y'all, I wanted to kind of announce, because we were talking about this before. So we only really have, we pre-shoot our episodes here at Round the Hay Bale, and we only have 3 more episodes till we were ending season 5. But just FYI, we will be recording 12 more episodes, which is going to take us through the end of the year. I mean, we're doing major fall topics. What are some of them, Monica? Because my brain, as you know, is kind of completely fried.
I don't know how you're going to ask me. I don't have my notes.
Okay. I pulled up the notes. Here we go. See, we're talking about homesteading and taxes, which I think is a very important episode. We're talking about more of the pantry stuff. We're talking about holiday ideas. We have a whole episode on soaps, y'all. Laundry soap, shampoo, all of that kind of stuff. We will talk about how to store fresh produce over the winter, and I need some help on that, because I grew some beautiful spaghetti squash last year and they lasted till about February, and they said, no, we want some gnats around your house, so store is good. Care for animals, all that kind of stuff. So it's exciting. We are going to be doing 12 more episodes to finish out the year, so you can't get rid of us yet. We do have some canning ones. Yes, we have some canning ones, Sydney. But I think it's time to wrap up this episode, because we're over, but we had so much fun. We couldn't believe how fast 30 minutes came up. And you want to close this out?
Sure. Thank you all so very much for being here and learning with me, because I have absolutely no experience whatsoever in owning what we grow, as far as harvesting your own meat, having your farm be, or your homestead or your yard be more self-sufficient for you. So thank you so much. Please don't forget, our podcast come out every Monday on Round the Hay Bale and anywhere that you would listen to a podcast. And so that is always fun. And when Round the Hay Bale's channel reaches 500 subscribers, we're going to have a big old giveaway. So we appreciate you all being here. Thank you so much. And this 30 minutes went by like in 5 seconds, but we love you all. We'll talk to you soon. Bye, y'all. Bye.
Are you enjoying the Hay Bale topics? To learn more, click on the Linktree link to get all of our product recommendations, along with discount codes and more.
Hey, Monica, did you know it's now even easier to listen to Around the Hay Bale podcast?
What? Really? How easy?
That's right. All you have to do is say, Alexa, play Round the Hay Bale podcast.
Playing Round the Hay Bale podcast on Apple Music.
Ooh, we're really fancy now.
Tune in to Round the Hay Bale every Monday at 9 a.m. Central Time.
We're back.
And now live every Friday.
With new topics and a new time.
Don't forget, a new host.
Yay, that's right. Sandy joins the panel for Hey Y'all Hey radio show.
Now, on Fridays at 11 a.m. Central.
We'll see y'all there.